Hi, welcome to Dazzliest Learning the Language of Autism. Belle Barraway here. I wanted to do a video on, or two, you guys, you parents, you neurotypical parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, professionals who are new to autism. You've never worked with an autistic person before. You've never parented an autistic person before. You've never been a grandparent to an autistic person before. It's a brand spanking new experience for you. And whether you have been given a diagnosis or not, your child has been given a diagnosis, or the person that you know, or whether or not you are kind of thinking pretty much they are autistic, or they have come to you and said, I am autistic, or I think I am autistic. So this is for you guys, because, you know, autism, depending on where you live, depending on the people you know, depending the jobs that you do, or the type of person you are, that word, that diagnosis will have a whole manner of reactions and responses from you, let alone the autistic person themselves. And if they're really young and they are not yet able to understand or process the label of autism, how you react and how you respond and how you treat that person that has been given that diagnosis can make 100% difference to how they view themselves. So it's really important, I feel, that we as neurotypical people give the best you can give and be the best you can be, and you will learn as you go. So anyway, let's go. I want to go through some different, I don't want to come across that I'm kind of like, you should this and you shouldn't that and you should do this and you should do that, because this is going to be, everyone's going to find their feet in their own individual way. This video is purely been created from the heart, from one neurotypical parent to others and other professionals. I'm also a professional early years worker, family support worker, that, autism is a complex and incredibly intelligent and wonderful condition that you can't just learn it in a 6 months course. You can't just learn it through reading a couple of books. You can't. And with all the best intentions in the world, even with the videos that I've put out there and that I'm giving, I'm not suggesting that by the end of watching, if you watched all my videos, you're going to know everything you need to know about autism. You are so not. But you are going to have, I feel, a very good understanding of how it can manifest, because I think I give a lot of different examples and speak about things in a slightly different way to maybe some of the other sort of courses that are out there. So I'm still learning, and I'm happy to be learning. I'm learning every single day, every single time I speak to a person, go onto social media, go onto Facebook, go onto the autistic community websites and groups, and just sometimes I'm an observer, sometimes I'm just sitting there reading comments and learning about things that people have written about and are commenting about, and it's just like, wow, like the source of information and wisdom and knowledge, because autistic people are beginning to share, well, have been sharing for quite some time now, their life experiences and offering support is incredible. And that's my number one tip. My number one tip, if you're new to autism and you're kind of like a bit like a rabbit in the headlights, is speak to other autistic people. Speak to other autistic people, whether it be children, teenagers, adults, it doesn't matter, because wherever they are in their life, they were always once children, and they were once, your young child. What you might see as an autistic adult, seemingly to be able to articulate really well, communicate really well, use really good language, have loads of different opinions, all of that. They were once probably a child that hardly spoke, didn't speak at all, used to do all the smearing and the head banging and the meltdowns, and was very anxious and scared, and many other things. Like, that picture doesn't always stay that way, and I think that's important to know, which is why it's really good to talk to other autistic adults and young people, and there are so many out there online. So that's my number one rule. Not rule. That's my number one tip, is go speak to other autistic people. Seek their advice, seek their wisdom. Learn the language that autistic people speak. Learn the language of the phrases and the labels that are autistic friendly, as in autistic people like to be spoken about in a certain way, and they like to have certain words and phrases and descriptions, because some that are out there, like high functioning, low functioning, for example, just one, can and is quite often inaccurate, misleading, misguiding, rude, inappropriate for the person that's on the receiving end of that, which is the autistic person. To be labelled a high functioning human or a low functioning human is incredibly rude and disrespectful, as I'm sure many of you would agree. If who would want to be spoken about in a meeting, oh, they're high functioning, oh, are they low functioning? It's just like, so there's much to learn. Because there's much to learn, at the end of the day, you're going to be learning about your child, the person that you love. That's the most important thing. But you'll learn about their language and their community and their way better if you, one, talk to many other autistic people. Also, try not to compare your child with anybody else's child, because that is the road to despair. If we compare ourselves to anybody else, we normally become depressed or upset, or we feel inadequate, or like we're not enough. It never seems to pan out well if you start comparing people to other people, and especially children. So please try not to do that. You're going to be looking at other people's kids that aren't autistic, and they're going to be doing this and doing that and all these different things, and you're going to be looking at your autistic child that may, not yet be writing their name, or they may not yet be, these are just examples. Like, there are autistic children that can write their name at the age of 3 and 4, and there are autistic children that can play in imaginative play. Many can. I know many that can, but some can't. And the last thing you need to be doing as a parent is comparing, because then you're gonna miss where your child is at and what they need, because you're going to be focused on what everybody else's kids are doing, and so you want your kid to do the same, and it ain't going to happen. Or it's not going to happen if you force it or you try it to make it happen. Like every other child, an autistic child has developmental stages that they need to go through. And those developmental stages can last a long time, or they can be quick ones. You can't skip them, you can't fast forward them, you can't rush them. If you do, you're just going to end up making the child, one, anxious and scared, sad and confused. And that will mean that they'll never move forward with ease. Let them enjoy their childhood. Let them enjoy being a kid. Just because they're an autistic child, they're still a child, and they still have memories, and you still want to be able to enjoy your child and let them enjoy their childhood. That's really important too. Don't, forget, an autistic child doesn't need to be filled full of therapy, tests, assessments, different meetings, trying different remedies and different this and different that. Allow them to be children, allow them the space and the dignity to play and develop and discover and experience in their own unique way. That's another top tip. Try not to panic. Like I say, don't panic about being given a diagnosis or hearing that your child is autistic. Allow yourself to go, oh my God, you're human, but don't stay there, is my advice, because it doesn't do anybody any good. But if you talk to other autistic people and you find positive people to talk about autism that aren't talking about curing it, eradicating it, using unusual and dangerous therapies. I say therapies because many of these dangerous ones are not therapies at all. Therapy is two people collaborating together to become more functional in things that they want to achieve in. That's what therapy is. Some of the therapies that are claimed to be therapies that are out there are another person telling an autistic person that they have to stop being that way and they need to be another way. That is a behavioural management or behavioural changing. Can't call it a therapy. I struggle with calling that therapy because the meaning of therapy to me is something very different. So be mindful of that as well. And some children, all people need some form of support, extra help with language communication, with physical needs. There are occupational therapists, there are speech and language therapists, there are play therapists, there are all manner of therapists out there, and I'm certainly not against that at all. I'm really not. But I'm just inviting you parents to be mindful of, it's very easy when you're scared and feeling vulnerable to just go, someone advises, for example, you need to put your child into ABA therapy. It's got all this and this, and it will help your child with this and this. It may, but be very careful. Research. And research ABA with other autistic people. Research ABA with alignment to autistic people that have received ABA. Not just parents of autistic children that have sent their children to ABA, but talk to the autistic people that have received the ABA and listen to their stories and listen to what they have to say about it, as well as a whole picture. It's very important because then you'll make better decisions for your child. Remember, even if you feel you know nothing about autism, you might feel that you can't connect to your child at this moment in time, and you might feel wretched and helpless. But please, parent to parent, professional person as well to parent, you know your child better than anyone else on this planet. You may not understand some of their behaviours and some of their ways with their autism. You can learn about that in time and with some advice and help from others, but you do know your child. So please remember that. I want that to empower you, and I want you to hold that in your heart so that you don't feel so helpless, because there are days when you are going to feel that way. There are days when you are going to get things wrong and you are going to make mistakes and you are going to feel like shit because you've made a mistake with your child. But you are also going to have days when you connect and your child will build a trust with you that is beyond words, and you will, and there's no reason in the world at all why an autistic child and a parent family with an autistic child in it cannot have a joyful, happy time together. Okay, you can. We do. We have many joys, many happy memories, many beautiful moments, just like any other family. So please remember that too. They will develop in their own sweet way. It might take longer, it might not, but it might. But they will still develop. My son is 15 now, and he is doing, and developed to things that when he was 4 and 5, I was thinking, he's never going to do this and he's never going to be able to do that, because you're there with them in that moment. And it's like, actually, of course he will. With the right loving space around him and the freedom to express and be who he is, I have found that he has really thrived and developed in his own way. And there are other videos that I've done, many on play, on food, on hair cutting, on routine, on all sorts of things that if you're interested, and if you start watching some of my other videos, you'll start to see how our son has developed, and the methods and the philosophies we have used and had in our family as to why we think they've worked for us. Another good tip is to really watch your child. Sit back, enjoy them, rather than like right from the get-go. So right from when they're very young, whether they're 2, whether they're 3, whether they're a year old, whether they're 7, 10, 15, but particularly when they're really, really young, I have found that the more you watch, because quite often, a lot of parents say, my child won't let me play with them, my child pushes me away, my child runs away, they seem to be in their own little world, all of that, and you feel as a parent that you're not able to connect. Well, use that time to watch and observe and learn about your child. It's an amazing opportunity to be able to just lay down near or by them or on the other side of the room, whatever they're comfortable with, and watch what they do, watch how they play, watch how they engage, watch how they might not play with a traditional toy in a traditional way. Our son didn't, but he might play with a hair clip. That hair clip might be the most important thing in their life at this moment in time, and they may enjoy listening to it click for hours and hours and hours, or they may want to put it in their mouth and taste it, smell it. They may want to move it around. They may want to throw it in the air. They may want to rub it in their hands. They may want to keep it with them all the time. They may want to take it to school. They may want to put it in their bed. They may get really upset if you take it from them or they lose it. So always have a spare one if you can. Just accept that as an example is where they're at right now, and that is really important to them. It doesn't really matter why. You can find out why, but the point is that they do, and that's a real loud top tip, because it took me a little while to get my head around that. But once I'm really engaged in, I don't know why he likes playing with that bit of plastic and flicking it up and down like that, but when I take it away and he's so upset, it doesn't matter because of where he is now. Like, if I knew then what I know now, I would have reduced the amount of sleepless nights I had, truly, truly, truly. So, is there anything else that I can say? I think that's it at the moment. I really urge you to celebrate your child, celebrate the fact that they're different and unique, and that you will learn about them. You will. But try not to change them too much. Accept who they are and let them be who they are, and you will find your way. Anything new, it can be challenging, and all I will also say is as sometimes some behaviours or some ways of playing or some of the needs that your child may have and you may find confusing, they too will find you just as weird. They will find you just as confusing. A neurotypical person to an autistic person can be incredibly stupid and incredibly difficult and very challenging, and it's a two-way thing, so which is why I call it Dazzliest Learning the Language of Autism, because to me autism is a language. It's a whole new language that we have to learn. If you're not autistic, you have to learn the language of autism, and if you are autistic, learning the language of a neurotypical person. So meeting in the middle means that you've both got half a chance of having a decent relationship, whereas if We're forced to be, if a neurotypical person is forced to be all autistic, it's going to seem overwhelming. And if an autistic person is pulled out, which they often are, of their autistic space, and you cannot be like that, you have to be like this because I don't understand you when you're like that, then from the get-go, then you're going to have a breakdown of a relationship and you're going to have a really tough time. Whereas if you kind of go, this is something new for me to learn, you will learn. I promise you'll learn about your child. You'll learn more about your child, more about yourself, more about being a human being than you ever imagined you could be. That, I can say hand on heart, that I have learned more about myself. Children teach you that anyway, I think. That's what's amazing about us, all my children. If our parents are prepared to listen, we teach our parents so much stuff. So they're my little tips on if you're new to being in an autistic person's life. It's to honour them, love them, celebrate them. Don't give yourself such a hard time. Remember that you're not perfect. Remember you are going to make mistakes. You're not always going to get it right. But instead of passing them off to loads of other strangers and different professionals, I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying be mindful of who and how many hours of therapy, if you choose that. Like some children are put into 30, 40, 50 hours a week of therapy. Can you imagine what that would feel like? If someone said to you, and you're neurotypical, you need 50 hours of therapy a week. And I'm not kidding, like it's a fact, it happens. There are some families out there that kids are in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 hours a week of therapy. That isn't therapy. That is mind changing your whole being. And it's incredibly stressful. You imagine being on the receiving end of that. So create joy and happiness, memories, play, fun. And lots of my videos are all about that. And they're all about ways in which you can, especially about sensory processing. Sensory processing, executive functioning are two really key factors, I think, to you understanding and learning about your child in a more effective, fun way. Okay, that's it. That's all I'm going to say for now. I hope that you found that helpful. Please do watch the other videos because they're full of tips and they are full of ideas that may pave your way. Share them, engage, subscribe, talk to me, talk to other autistic people, and everything will be okay. Okay, well, have a good week, and I hope to see you watching some of my videos. Bye for now.